Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. Ours is a place where dreams take flight, voices are heard, and stories are shared. This is where cultures meet, connections are formed, and ideas are transformed into action. This is your destination for authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations. We're where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover our world of education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our USA Global TV channel and download our USA Global TV app. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. With heartfelt thanks to our executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, music scored by Yifei Tang from Cloud Road Music, creative direction by Paul Garcia, and I'm Al Cini, and I'm very proud to be part of the USA Global TV and Radio family. So join us here at USA Global TV and Radio. Make us your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Thank you for being a part of our global community. Let's inspire together.
Hello, USA Global TV and Radio. Welcome and welcome back. We are here today on Talking Heads, and I am your host, MARISKA. I am a leadership development partner, and we are going to explore some leadership-related topics like we normally do on the show when you join me. So, with that being said, what is it that we are exploring today? So today we are going to be looking at our brand as a leader. Now, you might be thinking, what the hell do I need to worry about a brand for as a leader? What even are you talking about? I thought this is marketing speak. Well, it sort of is and isn't at the same time. But before we jump into that, I want to reel us back a little bit and discover or look at why this is even important. So what we found typically is there's three main categories for most leaders where they do have some challenges around certain things. So if you think about the credibility you have within your workspace, or maybe the interpersonal relationships that you might have or may not have, or competing markets and trying to drive business strategy. So all of these different things will fall into one of these different categories. So the categories are our personal growth, how we grow as a leader, and the type of influence and impact we can have. And of course, the interactions that would then result in. Then we also have the managing people and getting things done. Now, for most leaders, that's the place that we really want to focus. We really want to focus on the managing people and getting things done because, well, that's why we're there. We want to get things done, right? Then we also have our systemic leadership space. And when I'm talking about systemic leadership space, I'm really talking about the bigger environments in which we operate. So there you can think about the markets that your business operate in, or even the different departments that you might need to influence within the business. That is not only your own team. So anywhere where you go beyond your normal own scope, or where you are trying to influence more people at the same time, that's when we are looking at more of the systemic sort of space and the connections between. Now, where does personal brand come in? Well, personal brand is really part of that personal growth space. And the reason why this is important is because no matter which one it is that you are finding challenges in, if this specific personal growth space is not one that's been on your radar and you haven't focused on it, you will not be as effective in any of the other spaces as you can potentially be. So that's why it's really important for us to think about this thing, whether you want to call it personal brand, whether you want to call it being authentic as a leader, whatever way it is you want to express it, it is about how we are showing up as well as how others are seeing us when we show up. So that's the basic principle of it. And when you think about a brand, so say, for instance, you think about, I don't know, pick any brand, Apple, Nike, Coca-Cola, doesn't really matter. Any brand, right? What is it that they're really trying to do with their brand? Well, if you know the brand, you will know the colors, you will most probably know the voice in which they speak. Typically, you will know what they stand for, what's valuable to them, what's important to them, what will they die for, and what would they not, right? What is the things that maybe they don't care about? So thinking about that in normal brands, typically for most of us, fairly easy to do. But how does that then translate into us human beings? How does this work for us as a person? Well, let's take that and then we bring it into our human space. So when you think about a human's potential brand and how we can express that brand, we might think about, okay, so the values, the things that's valuable to a place like Apple or Nike or Coca-Cola, that is the same thing for us. So what is valuable to us as a human being, right? Do you know your values? Do you know the things that you find valuable? Now, a couple of ways to do that is to check whether it is something that is so important to you. If it's going to get stepped on, you are going to be very, very upset about it, and might even do something out of the ordinarily weird, fight with somebody or not engage with that thing at all, right? So understanding what it is that we find valuable, what is really important to us, is one of the things that would then speak to our brand. You can also ask friends, what do you think is my values? What do you see as things that's important to me? And they will mention things that they see is important to you. Now, this may or may not be congruent with what you have. And that's part of when we get into the how do we actually build our personal brand, we'll look at that a little bit more. So values is one of the main things. Then also we, because of the things that we value, right, we will typically behave in a certain way. So what type of behaviors do we have? We will also, because of that, have specific priorities. So thinking about the priorities that we show, what it is that we say, how it is that we say this. So if you think about any other brand, typically they will have a brand voice. The brand voice is basically how they talk, how they show up as a brand. So that's the same for human beings. How do we show up? How do we show up as a leader? What is it that we show is important? And what is it that we show maybe isn't as important? Then we also, because we are the leader, or even if you're not a leader yet, think about your interpersonal interactions. So how do we interact with those around us? Do they have a specific type of experience with us? Are we very responsive? Are we very unresponsive? Are we always ready to help out? Are we never ready to help out? Whatever the thing is that we are doing, how do other people experience us, and how does that influence the types of interactions that we might be having? So these are all things around our brand, and it's really around the who are we being, right? Who am I showing up as? And when I think of myself as a leader, am I showing up in that space the same way, in congruence with who I am as a human being? I know that sometimes, and I've had this conversation with quite a number of different clients over the years, we do get into situations where we don't necessarily feel that we can act in congruence with ourselves because something needs to happen. For instance, we might have a difficult conversation that we need to have, or we might even need to fire somebody. Now, typically for most leaders, that is a horrible experience to go through. I know for myself, it isn't fun. It isn't fun. It, however, is necessary, especially if we went through a whole process of trying to turn this thing around and still it didn't happen, or that person's values might not be in alignment, whatever might be the case, that this person and us as the organization, because as the leader, we are representing the organization, need to part ways. And we can still do this thing in congruence with ourselves and with our values. We can still do it in a humane way, in a way where it sits really well with us, even though it's a sucky thing that we are still both going through, because the employee as well as the leader go through that process. And we can do it in a way where we can still show empathy and compassion for this other human being that's going through this process in a way where we do not step on our own values. So thinking about who we are being. And then as we grow, because that's part of this whole journey, is we grow as human beings, right? You are not the same person you were 10 years back. You wouldn't be the same person because you've had different types of experiences. You have different learnings that you went through throughout your life. So, of course, you're going to be a different person. You would have tweaked things, made things a little bit easier for yourself or different for yourself. So the next question then is, who do I want to be as a leader? Maybe who I am now as a leader isn't quite serving me. I might see that I'm getting into a lot of conflict situations. I might see that I have this pattern of some conversations, I've got a 50-50 match. Some conversations really, really good. And then other conversations, I think they're going to be good. And then for some odd reason, they fall flat. So I look at my own ratios and sort of go, well, I want to improve this piece. I want to become better in these types of conversations or with these types of people that I'm interacting with. Might be a specific space that I am just really struggling with. So who do I want to be as a leader? So the reason why it's important to think about our leadership brand, if you haven't picked up on it yet, is it can enhance our goals to achieve that next thing, whatever that next thing might be. Because yes, as a human being, you are not operating in isolation. Now, I work with a lot of people that came in from the engineering space into leadership, or they're still operating within the engineering space. And typically we wish we could just not work with that many people. And when we are in the leadership space, that's what we do. We work with people. So helping us to enhance our goals in order to achieve, part of that is being self-aware and understanding how our actions, our behaviors, our way of being and showing up influences those around us and those that we are trying to convince of something, take along a journey, help get them to actually do the thing that we need them to do because there's a deadline, whatever the case might be. So that's one. It also broadens our impact. So we aren't only impactful with people that knows us really, really well, we also get to be impactful with a broader audience, a broader amount of stakeholders around us, a bigger ecosystem. So thinking about that systemic leadership space, that's really where we want to stretch ourselves out, because we can then influence more people in order to implement the strategy that we want to be implementing in a way that's in congruence with who we are as a human being. And then, of course, it also differentiates us and makes it clear what's our unique value that we are bringing. So all of these things, very, very important when we think about how we are showing up and our own personal brand. Now, you might be wondering, okay, I know all of these things. It's wonderful that you told me that personal brand is important, and I get it. I want to get this done, but where do I start? How do I even think about this to get it done? Well, the framework that I like to use is the now, gap, future. So what we want to be doing is we want to determine where we are right now. So in determining where we are right now is we look in and out. So we want to know what it is that we are experiencing ourselves. How do we think we are showing up? What's the behaviors that we can see from ourselves? Ways of doing this, really creative and good ways of doing this, is doing a bit of an audit. So you can do a social media audit, go through your LinkedIn, go through other places in social media where you show up, specifically within your leadership space, and have a bit of a look at when somebody's going to read this, what would they see? What would they find about you? Because whatever they see and find about you is the things that you are communicating. This is important to me. We can also do that, if you think about brand voice, when we do a bit of an email audit. So when you go through your emails, what sort of communication do you typically send via email? How does that come across when you read back at your emails? What type of responses did you get from other people? Or did you get no responses from them? Were they good responses? Were they favorable? Was that response what you intended to get back? Or did it not land? And if it didn't land the way that you wanted it to land, what went wrong? Where was the disconnect? So that's a bit of an internal audit that we can do for ourselves to see how people might be perceiving us. Externally, it is really around getting feedback. So what we want to do is we want to ask those people around us what they are seeing, what they are experiencing from us. If they were able to say, this is my main experience of MARISKA, and this is how she comes across, then we get a good idea of what is showing up and how those interactions might be influencing the brand that we have. And the things that we are showing consciously or unconsciously about what is important to us. Then we also want to look at the future. Now, one way of looking at the future is first to look at the gap. So we have the now, we have the gap, and then we have the future. So when we look at the gap, a way of doing this is making a love it and loathe it list. So literally what you're doing is you sit down and you think about your leadership space in general, the things that you do each day, the activities that you really enjoy, the things that you don't enjoy as much, the type of spaces and energy that you really enjoy, and the ones that you don't enjoy. So we want to make these two lists. One, all the things that we really, really enjoy doing, and what it is that's important to us. And of course, looking at those values, remember them. Yep. See whether they're in alignment. And then the loathed ones, the ones that it's either not my best work, I don't enjoy doing it, takes way, way too long, and I procrastinate on it for whatever reason. So that would go onto the loaded list, and have that list with you. So that helps us to determine this gap. Another way of determining, before we get to the other way of determining the gap, or rather to close the gap, when we think about our future, one way of doing this is think about your own tagline. Now, imagine we have a billboard, very, very big billboard. It is on the side of a highway, freeway, big interstate road. And of course, with billboards, we typically have very short things that's on there, right? It's like a sentence at most, very short sentence. So very impactful, very short. What would your billboard say about you? Now you can think about it, what it is saying about you right now, or what you want it to say about you in the future, because that's where we want to move towards. So what's that thing that you want to live up to? What's your billboard saying about you? So have that tagline, write it down on a piece of paper, sticky note that you can put somewhere where you can see it often. So that's a reminder for us as to this is the leader I want to be and that I am stepping into as I'm growing into this future that I'm envisioning. Now, going back to our gap, we have identified our gap with our love it and loathe it list, right? But now we also want to make sure that we know where we are now, we know where we want to move into in the future, and we want to close the gap. So how do we typically close a gap? Well, we need to take action. We need to do something. Otherwise, the gap won't close. So when you think about that action, what is it that you, now that you know how your new leadership brand needs to look like, what it is that you want to be showing, how you want to be being, we want to think about what's the actions or behaviors that I need to change or alter in order for me to get there. So typically, if it is a big gap that we are working with, think about what's my next very first step, right? Something small I can do that feels easy and manageable. If, however, you are the type of person that really enjoys a challenge, think about the biggest, most bold step that you can take. So either one of them doesn't matter because the intention is taking the step. So whether you choose a small one or a big one, as long as you choose one of them and take a step into the direction of that future, you are on the right track. So that's how we are going to close our gap. And then, of course, what we also want to be doing while we are closing the gap is we want to continuously review. Because as we move, if you think about traveling, as you move through your journey when you are traveling, right, you see new things. So if you think about a road trip, for instance, you've been traveling with a family, going on a holiday, or you might have been traveling for work, whatever the case might be. As you move from your house to maybe somewhere in the middle of the trip, now all of a sudden the landscape's different. You might be seeing new things. You might be experiencing different things. So what we want to also do in this travel and on this journey is we want to make sure that we review. Are we, one, still on track? And is the destination that we initially thought about still the one that we want to go to? Because from time to time, because we don't have full knowledge and full vision of everything, we might need to decide to change course for whatever reason. Might be that we thought, well, I'm going to do this thing and then I'm getting into it and I'm trying it out. And it's not because it's difficult, but because I am noticing that it's not in congruence with me. as a human. And that makes me want to move to a different altitude or different direction, right? I want to adjust. So I want to review what I'm doing to see what types of adjustments I need to make in order for me to get into that leadership space that I really, really value. Because what I might have thought initially was a good way of showing up as a leader, or potentially in one environment or in one space looked like a good place to show up as a leader, might be a different story in a different place, in a different space. I might have changed organizations, and in this one organization, this one thing worked really well, and this other organization, something else works really well. And my new organization is actually more in alignment with my own values, or potentially I readjusted my values. I thought this one thing was really important, and as I grew older, 10 years down the track, I found out, well, this other thing is actually more important than the one that initially, at a younger age, I did think was important to me. So we want to continuously reevaluate. We can do this on an annual basis. We can do this on a 6-monthly basis, depending on what type of scale you have for yourself, how audacious your steps was that you put for yourself. You can decide what type of frequency you want to do. And it's always good to do a bit of a review, because it also helps us to learn from what we've already experienced and what we went through. So that is why personal brand is something that we all need to consider, whether we are in the leadership space where, yes, you are always being looked at, no matter who you are or where you go. Or alternatively, if we are still working towards our leadership space, or just in general, a leadership brand is always a good thing to keep at the back of our mind to think about. And questioning ourselves whether we are in alignment with what we want to do. What am I known for as a human being? So what's everybody else seeing? And where do I want to focus now and or next? So with that, I am going to leave you to go and build on your leadership brands, doing a little bit of an audit to see where you are now, exploring your gap as well as the future, and seeing how we can get those a little bit closer to one another. You can, of course, also get hold of me via my email, which is mariska@journey2discover.com. Or alternatively, you can also find me on LinkedIn. And if you want, you can also find me on my website, which is journey2discover.com. Until next time, when I see you for another topic on leadership here on Talking Heads on our wonderful platform, USA. And now that all went out of my head. Wonderful. USA Global TV and Radio. There you go. Until then, I hope that you enjoy all your different experiences and creating that leadership brand that you want to be known for. Until next time, bye-bye for now.
Have you ever felt unheard? Like your words float into a void, leaving you invisible and disconnected? How about feeling judged when assumptions overshadow your truth, leaving you misunderstood and defensive? And then there's that moment when someone offers solutions you never asked for, dismissing your feelings and leaving you more frustrated than before. It doesn't have to be this way. Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the listening mentor, understands. She's here to help you reclaim your voice, build stronger connections, and create meaningful conversations that inspire understanding and mutual respect. Through her groundbreaking books, online and in-person courses, and interactive workshops, you'll learn how to navigate life's most challenging interactions. Discover the power of elevated listening and transform how you communicate. Master setting boundaries and asking permission to protect your peace. Learn to recognize and release judgment, fostering empathy and true connection. Dr. Kerbeck also offers personalized coaching, one-on-one or group.
In a world that moves fast, there's strength in the woman who moves with grace. Introducing Bay London, where confidence meets craftsmanship. Each piece is intentionally designed for the woman who knows her worth, crafted from luxurious Italian eco-fabrics that feel as good as they look. With elegant coverage, effortless support, and timeless style, our swimwear celebrates both your body and your essence. Founded by fashion expert Carrie Sykes, Bay London is made for women who want to feel sexy, stylish, and seen. From poolside to beachside, sunrise to sunset, Bay London outfits you for every moment that matters. Because beauty isn't about age, it's how you wear your confidence. Bay London, confidence, elegance, effortless luxury. Visit baylondon.com. Act now for your exclusive friends and family discount of $35. Scan the QR code. Bay London, where confidence meets craftsmanship. Proud sponsor of USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honored to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/usaglobaltv. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.